Hello and welcome to the Holy Nerd. I'm Nathaniel, your host, and today I thought I'd talk about one of my favorite games to play and run. I am talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Let's get into this. So, Dungeons and Dragons. I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons at an early age, around 7, maybe 8. It wasn't traditional Dungeons and Dragons as we know it. My dad and his friends were playing, and they had their own variation. But it ran like a D&D game. Like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder are not the same, but they have the same concepts. That's kind of how it was with Dad and his friends. So, anyways, I was introduced at a young age, and I just absolutely loved the game. The storytelling of it, the imagination, and just the cool and epic stories you can build together as DM and players. I also enjoyed the monsters and creatures that were available at your fingertips to add to just the fantasy setting. And by the way, it doesn't just have to be fantasy. There were games where we were playing out sci-fi themes, like outer space, having our own ship, and we had to tend to our ship and make sure it was taken care of, so that way if we ever got into a space battle, we were not going to just blow up out there. There was also Western games that I remember playing where it was fun, chases on horses and gunfire and things like that, surviving the Old West. And there's all different types of systems. I know I keep saying Dungeons and Dragons, but there's also Pathfinder. I think there's another one called Savage Worlds. GURPS, I think, was another one. There's all different kinds of systems you can use to whichever one that you prefer and you think your group will understand better. But that's just how much there is content-wise to play these really amazing fun games. But like I've already said, I have to say personally for me, when it comes to these kind of games, no matter the genre, no matter the system you're using or anything like that, my favorite thing about these games, as I've said already multiple times in this video, is the storytelling, the story building that you can do with this. The DM, of course, is in charge of making the story and building it and such, but your players, you wouldn't believe how impactful they are into making the story, especially if they make their own backstories and you incorporate them into your game. The amount of detail and things that can go into a game can be immense. I mean, I'm pretty sure people have based some of their books off of games they've played and things like that, like D&D games, because of how rich the story was. And depending on your DM, they'll dive deep into lore and all other manner of things to make sure that their players are enraptured into the game to continue to push the story forward. So it's very important to realize that this is telling a story together, the DM and the players together. And I know this is a little cliche, but it always is like you start in a tavern, a ragtag group of people, and you're just a bunch of misfits that are put on this meager, small mission, right? But if it's a campaign that spans over a long period of time, you keep building and building, and the events get bigger and better and just more theatrical. And eventually, you come to the end of the story. Right? It's time to close the book because you've come to the end of those character stories. And I have seen people just after it's over be like, "Man, that was amazing. That was epic. I want to do that again." They want to go for the next game. When's the next game going to start? As a forever DM, I get that all the time, where the game ends and the players are like, "Okay, so next week we make our characters for the next campaign, right?" And I'm over here like, "Hold on a second. It takes a little longer than that to come up with the next game." I mean, some of you DMs know what I'm talking about. Some of you actually, like, as you see the campaigns coming to an end, you're already prepping for the next one so you can just roll right into it. And I commend you for that. Because personally, I need time to, like, reset and come up with some fresh content. But, And sometimes when I'm playing with the guys I play with, a lot of them want to run their own game, and they ask me, like, "Nate, how do you, come up with these stories and stuff like that, and how do you make them so impactful?" And what I keep on telling them is, you have to understand your audience, and you have to understand the characters and their backstories. That is probably one of the most important things, is to remember it's about the players, not the DM. The DM makes a story, yes, but the players drive it forward. If you don't have players, you don't got a game. And the thing about players is that they enjoy something that tugs at the heartstrings, When you make a villain that just irks them, right? You want them to, when they see that villain, you want them to, like, feel the rage in themselves, like, that guy did A, B, C to us and to those we care about, our characters. We need to take this guy down. And if you want to be a jerk, you make that villain have an escape. So that way they can be a reoccurring villain. That way the characters are always like, "We're going to get them next time," You want them to just feel the hatred towards them. The same can be said for characters that are helpful to them. You want those characters to be important to them. You want them to, almost, I wouldn't say fall in love with those characters, but I mean, that's a good way to say it. You want them to care about the characters that you are putting before them, and even maybe become protective of those characters. Someone starts to push that character around, maybe the players are like, "Hey, that's my friend, leave them alone," and it can lead to some really fun role-playing. I guess the point I'm trying to make is D&D is a storytelling game. It can just be like a dungeon crawl, hack and slash and all that, but those ones generally are not memorable, unless, of course, you added a little story into it. If it's just a hack and slash, it feels like a video game, really. Could just sit on your gaming chair like I am and just play some, I don't know, Baldur's Gate 3 or something, and just enjoy playing a game. When there's story involved, though, with a D&D game, it doesn't feel so video gamey. It feels more like I know I keep on overusing this, but it's like you have a book and you're turning the page and reading chapter by chapter. Each session is a chapter that you're reading. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to just bring into the game, is a feeling of story and story progression. You want them to feel like the story progresses. Story progression can be something like character story arcs. These are the things that drive the characters to continue to love and play the game, because they see their characters are important to the storytelling. A broken character, for example, a character that maybe came from a dark background, trying to emulate that they are no longer part of that dark background. They're actually trying to be the good guys. A good example of this maybe would be like Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You see him go from being the bad guy to progressively realizing that the Avatar is not the villain and maybe he's on the wrong side, and eventually you see him join Team Avatar and restore honor to the Fire Nation. This is a really good story arc for a character and can be implemented into a D&D game, and it's things that the players crave and love. So those are my opinions, at least, on D&D. I believe Dungeons & Dragons is a storytelling tool and game. But, I mean, of course, everybody has all their own opinions on the game. You've got people who want the cool magic items. They want to unlock the new ability when they level up, or get access to cooler, more powerful spells. These are all fine and good things. The point of D&D also is not just storytelling, it's also about camaraderie. Your friends getting together and just enjoying a great time socially, whether it's in person or online. But anyways, that's all I got for today. I will wish you a fantastic day. God bless, and hopefully I catch you next time. Remember, like and subscribe, share with your friends, that way this channel can keep on growing.